Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel, and hit the subscribe button down below, the notification button. And I just have to give you a warning. There is some very deep, dark, ugly wording in this book in the next chapters from 6 through 11, and the letter that he wrote, and all of these are words that come out of Chris's mouth. And I just want to get it across that this is the side of him that a lot of people don't know about. This is the side of him that needs to be portrayed, and he is not a victim in any way, shape, or form. And you can see this in the next 5 chapters of this book. So chapter 6 starts out talking about Nicole Kessinger and how she disappeared off of the face of the earth. It talks about how him and her, Nicole Kessinger, had a fight on July 14th. And Chris says during that fight, she was over at his house, and he feels like she was giving him an ultimatum, that she was playing with the dog, and he took her upstairs, and the dog did, and she just got really upset, and she felt like she hadn't given him any first, and that he had everything with Shanann, and she couldn't give him his first kid because Shanann had already done that. She couldn't be his first wife. Shanann had already done that. And so Chris says he felt like Nicole was forcing him to choose come July 14th of that fight. And that is the day that he said that he knew he had to do something, that he couldn't do this anymore. And that is when he started plotting his family's murders. He said that at first Nicole said that she didn't want to have any kids, but by this July 14th fight, she was very upset and said that she wanted to give him his first son. If she didn't, at this point, they had not announced to anyone if they were having a boy or a girl. So even if she did know that Shanann was pregnant, she did not know that she was having a boy at that point. Once the girls left to North Carolina to go see her family for that month, Chris said that he finally felt free. He had freedom, but Nicole latched onto him and wanted him at her house every single night, and that he spent every night in July over there, and that he had not been introduced to Nicole's friends, but he felt like right before the murders that this was about to happen. But somehow he knew that Nicole's friends were dark, and they were into some really dark things, and there was a lot of dark things going on with her friends in her apartment. He also says that on August 9th, he took down his Facebook so Nicole's friends would not see that Shanann was pregnant and get that back to her. Also said that Nicole Kessinger didn't really have much of a social media. She had already deleted most of her social media because she was in an abusive relationship before she got with Chris. And so she did not even have her mail sent to her house. Her mail was sent to her dad's, I guess, so this person could not find her. And he also said that he thought that Nicole Kessinger was on medicine, or he knew she was on medicine, and that he thought it was for her bipolar disorder. And we all know that she did that video talking about bipolar. So Chris was aware of that. And Chris says that she came to his house on July 4th because that was the first time he came to the house. The 14th was the big fight, and when he decided he had to annihilate his family. But on July 4th, he woke up at Nicole Kessinger's house, and Shanann was calling him. So he went outside to talk to her. Shanann was pissed on why he wasn't talking to her or communicating with her. And so he knew that he needed to go home in case Shanann was going to be calling him later in the day. So he went inside and he told Nicole Kessinger while she was in the shower that he needed to go home. And she got very insecure and upset, and it says that she freaked out on him And when he got home, she showed up at their house. Now, mind you, she had never been to the house before, supposedly, and she knew Shanann was gone, but still, like, that takes some balls to show up over there uninvited. But we also are only getting Chris's version, so we don't know if he invited her or not. So then it says that on July 14th, when he invited her over, it was supposed to be for that whole fitness app thing and to help him with his food count or whatever. And that is when he says that Dieter led her upstairs and she saw all the pictures and their beautiful home, and she just felt like she was never going to be to him what Shanann was, and that before this point she hadn't really acted like this, but she pretty much gave him an ultimatum in a way and just did not want to be the other woman. So he saw that she was miserable in the home, so he tried to calm her down. And it says that she got upset and she went out to her truck and sat in her truck for 30 minutes, and they were texting back and forth, and he was able to talk her off the ledge or whatever from being so upset and to get her to come back in, and that turned him on because he had never gotten a woman to do what he wanted them to do. And so he said that he liked that was a huge turn on, that he was able to talk her out of being upset and to come back in. So at that very moment is when he realized how she felt and that he was going to have to kill his family to be with her, and that he could not lead the double life anymore, that they were going to end up crossing. And so they went back to Nikki's, and they both have stated, her in her interviews and him in this book, that their sex life went downhill after that. The frequency wasn't as often. It wasn't as passionate. Chris was having a hard time performing, and he says it was because he was feeling guilty, but I personally think it was because he was afraid that he wasn't going to get away with it, or that it was consuming his mind, and he was constantly thinking about killing them and how he was going to do it and when and where and why. And so that is what messed up the sex life. In chapter 7, it says, when Chris went to visit Shanann, Nicole Kessinger pushed him to try to work things out with his marriage. She texted him while he was at the airport and told him that he needed to just try to work things out with her and be happy. And he said that in that moment, the pressure came off that was on him from July 14th during that fight, and that made him love Nicole even more because she was being that way, and he didn't feel that pressure anymore. But he also said that when he got there, that the first night he was there, I think, or one of the nights he was there, he gave her the Oxy, telling her it was an over-the-counter medicine. It was an 80 milligram Oxycontin, and he was hoping that it would cause her to miscarry. And so after she took the Oxycontin, she started getting nauseous and sick and wasn't feeling right, and it affected her a lot, but she didn't know. She thought it was because of the pregnancy. So she thought that she was just upset, or her stomach was upset and not feeling good because she was pregnant. But in all actuality, he had given her this Oxy, and her family had noticed that when she was sick, he wasn't caring for her. He says that like I said, he had hoped that the Oxy would make her miscarriage. He says that in NC, they went to Myrtle Beach for the first time with the girls, and that the girls were getting on his nerves, and he was annoyed by them, and he had no patience for them, and that he was being very unfriendly. He wasn't playing with them on the beach, and distant and aloof and detached. And he said that the girls picked up on it, and that they wanted nothing to do with him, that they didn't want to hold his hand, that he felt like they sensed he was off, and that he just avoided them like the plague. And while in NC, Nikki was calling him, and he told her, look, I can't talk right now. I can't talk tonight. And she got very insecure again and said, well, what are you with her? and said it like that. And so that's when he said the pressure was back on, and he felt like he had to ignore Shanann while he was at Myrtle Beach and be distant from her and not be intimate with her because he wanted to make Nikki happy. So he also says that he got back to Colorado on August 8th and that he went straight over to Nikki's house and they talked. And this is when he went over there in his work truck, and this is when she gave him a key to her house. Now, granted, she told the detectives that she did not ever give him a key to his house, but the day he got back from the beach, I guess she was feeling like he was slipping away, and so she wanted to solidify that by giving him a key. And we all know that that means commitment whenever you give somebody a key to your house. Also, it says that he left Nicole's to go to the ultrasound, but when he got to the ultrasound, he had a hatred for the baby and Shanann, and that during the ultrasound, he felt cold and indifferent and was not even going to think about the baby as being his because he knew what he had been planning, and he knew that he would never see this child be born. Shanann tried to hold his hand during the ultrasound, and he would not hold her hand. So in turn, he pulled away and wanted no part of it. So they fought when they got back home that night. They got in a big argument. Chris said he was sleeping on the couch, and he said he slept on the couch of the day of the ultrasound, which was August 8th, and that he slept in the basement the next night. But he also said that he stayed on the couch that night of August 8th so he could stay up talking to Nicole. So then, he does swear that during that argument that Shanann said, I hope she's worth it because you're never going to see your kids again. He did say that she said that, but he also said that she said that the morning that he murdered her, and we will never know. Shanann sent pics the next morning to the Watts family. She was trying to reach out to them and let them see a picture of their future grandbaby, and she had just been rejected by Chris the day before, and the baby wasn't getting wasn't feeling like a blessing to everybody, and so she reached out to them and they did not respond. They saw a picture of their future grandchild. It was a boy, and I don't know if they knew it was a boy at that point, though, but they did not respond to that. Can you imagine not responding to your child or in-law child, your son-in-law or daughter-in-law, telling you you're going to be a grandparent again and just not responding? It's not the child's fault. So it also says that they didn't respond. That's just pitiful. And this is the same day he sent the doll pic. It was later on in the afternoon at 11:45. He sent it to Shanann, and she noticed that he didn't have a Facebook anymore. And she got really upset and asked him why. And of course, he made some lame excuse, but it was about about Nicole's friends not finding out about the pregnancy. So in that point, she was scrambling to do anything to save her marriage. So she scheduled this Aspen getaway and asked him if he would go with her. And he says in the book that he agreed to go because he knew he would not have to go because she would be dead. Chris says Shanann thought about canceling the Arizona trip with Thrive the next, because that was like on the 10th. The ultrasound and all that was on the 8th, and him sleeping in the basement was on the 9th. So on the 10th, I think is when she's supposed to leave. And it says that she was broken. We all saw that. She really didn't want to go on that trip. You could see that in one of her pictures when she was sent the picture in North Carolina. She was exhausted and broken. He did not want her. She did not like the way he was treating her, and he just basically told her to go. And Chris says that she kept asking it about a fare in the end. So she was pretty smart in picking up on it. He said that he felt the darkness growing inside of him. He said that he admits Nikki is the sole reason of the murders, that he would have killed anybody or anything that got in his way with being with Nikki. For some reason, he had this delusional idea that he could annihilate his family and just get away with it the next day, and no one was going to ask about her. Like, I do not think he thought about anything past the murder. So Shanann left Friday, August 10th, and said she felt sick. She thanked him for getting up with her that morning. And so I think that that sickness that she had was the same sickness that she got when she was given the Oxycontin. And that since he got up with her that morning, he gave her another one in her Thrive drink. And that's a lot of speculation going on that a lot of people have said that. But if they were fighting so bad and he slept in the basement on the 9th and on the couch on the 8th, then why would he get up with her in the morning on the 10th before she left unless he had a plan to put something in her Thrive drink? And she thanked him for getting up with her. So the next day, we know he lies so he can go to the Lazy Dog with Nicole. We know that he gets a babysitter, a young girl of somebody he knows, and he goes out with Nicole. And at this point, he's getting brave, like, because he knows he's planning to kill them, and he knows that the night is in the morning or the next couple of days. And so he ran out of gift cards. So he decides to, instead of pulling money out of the ATM to use cash, he uses the card at the Lazy Dog for a $60 check, which alerts Shanann right away. But at this point, he really doesn't care because he knows what he's going to do. And, so she gets suspicious. She starts looking up stuff at the Lazy Dog, talking to all her friends. Shanann does. And Chris goes back home. Shanann does not confront him over text messages that we know of. She does reach out to her friends and talks to her friends about it. We know that this is when he ran out of gift cards. Gage, no, honey. Go. You can't be around this. You shouldn't even be up. So sorry. So, he ran out of gift cards, and Shanann saw the mill on his bank, and because he just didn't care, and she was in such denial all that time, all of us can be like that. Granted, we've all been in denial at some point in time about our significant others. So Chris told the FBI during his confession, he says on August 13th, he felt anger and rage for the first time, and that he put his hands around her throat and he could not stop. There was just some kind of force that would not remove his hands from his throat. Well, he tells the author that he actually was not enraged that morning, and that he said that she had made him angry, but he was not enraged when he was killing her. So he tells that to the author, that he didn't get pissed off or mad until he got to the oil site. But then he contradicts himself later when he's talking in the letter. So you just never know what to believe with him. And then on Sunday, August 12th, he recalls Nicole texting him a lot while he was at that birthday party with the girls. We all saw the picture of him in the background, and his eyes just don't look right. It's because his wheels are spinning. Nicole's just bombarding him with messages. He knows what he has to do later. And so you can just see the darkness in him in that picture. He says that he's keeping his mind on her because she's blowing him up. He says after the party, he went home and grilled, packed his lunch, cleaned the kitchen, bathed the girls, and put them to bed with a bedtime story. And so he talks to Nicole on the phone for an hour and a half. Nicole would never tell the detective what they talked about. She said she don't remember. He says that they talked about phone sex. So if that was true, why couldn't Nicole tell that to the detective? I mean, they knew they were not going to get to see each other until a while. And so why wouldn't they have phone sex the night before Shanann came back? So it wouldn't have been such a red flag for her to not know what they talked about for an hour and a half. So then he talks to Nicole. Oh, I already told you that. So Chris said that he tucked in the girls knowing it was the last time that he was going to tuck them in. He said that Bella kept getting up, asking for mommy. And then Shanann texted around that time when Bella kept getting up. And she said that her flight was delayed. So she was supposed to be there at 10:30, but her flight delayed her until like 1:40. So he said he was pissed. He could not get it done. He was mad that he didn't get to do this at 10:30 and be done with it by 11. He was pissed that he had to wait till the morning, that he had finally gotten the nerve up to do it. Now, these are his words. These are not my words. He said that the night before the murders, he knew the next day he would be free to be with Nicole. So this night, on that Sunday night, while he's waiting on his wife to get home, he knew in his mind, and this is wackadoodle. There's no way. Like, how could you not have 10% chance that you might not get away with it? Like, he literally thought the next day that him and Nicole would be riding off in the sunset, supposedly, from what he says. So he says also to the author about the letter that Chris wrote on April 23rd. He talked to the author about how they were running this petition to get the pictures taken down of his cellmate. Or not cellmates, I'm so sorry. There was this huge petition going around to get Chris to take the pictures of Bella, Celeste, and Shanann off of his cell wall. People did not think that he should be looking at his victims, even though they were his family, that he shouldn't have his victims on the wall. And, you know, other murderers don't have their victims on the wall. People that hoarded women in dungeons and stuff, they don't get to have their victims on the wall. So I really don't understand why he gets to, but that's not my business. And so he says that he was pissed about that, and he doesn't understand why people can't just why it's taking a long time for everyone to get over this. And he also tells her in this letter where he's complaining about people being upset about the pictures being in his cell. He says that God has told him that he needs to confess, but he wants to do it to her in letters so that the phone conversations can't be recorded. That he thinks that if he tells her, then it's going to be recorded. So he would rather write it down and document it. So I don't understand that either. But it says that he was ready to tell more truth. I can't say that he's ready to tell the truth because he supposedly told the truth so many times. He says that him and Shanann, when she got home and he went and got back in the bed the next day, they had an emotional conversation. And he says that she started crying and telling him that she loved him and that he sees her mascara running down her face. And that he in turn looks at her and tells her that he tells the author that he hates that he said this, but he told her that they were not compatible and that he did not love her. And he talks about the mascara like he's recalling this, but honestly, I think that he killed Shanann the exact same way. This is my opinion. The exact same way that he killed the girls while they were sleeping, as a coward. Cowardly is how he did it with the girls the first time, and cowardly is how I think he did it with Shanann. I think that maybe he gave her another oxy, because he even talks about her being drowsy, and then if you sit on top of somebody and you put your knees on their arms, it's happened to me before, you cannot move. So I feel like with what Chris said, that's what happened, but that's my personal opinion. After he talks about the mascara running, he says that she threatens him never seeing the girls again, and says that he went into a rage in that moment. But that contradicts the whole he wasn't raging that he told the author before during this, and I don't think he was. I don't think she even told him that, because he had been planning this for weeks. So she did not say any of that. I think he killed her while she was asleep. Or trying to sleep. So then, because he says here that she did not fight back because she couldn't, that her eyes filled with blood, and that he knew that she was gone. Well, he said that when Shanann got drowsy, he somehow knew to push on the jugular so the blood flow would stop to her brain, and then she passed out. He said it was easier than the girls, and that he held her jugular for what seemed like a long time, and he watched his hands and could not stop or because if he did stop, it would keep him from Nikki. He says that she did not fight back because she couldn't, and that her eyes filled with blood, and that he knew when she relieved herself that she was gone. And he says that the girls came in while he was wrapping up Shanann and asked what's wrong with mommy. And he said that he could visibly see trauma on them from him smothering them, and that he could not believe that they came in because he had thought he killed them, or no, he knew he killed them, and he did not understand how they were alive still. He said that he had no desire to comfort them. He knew he had to kill them, but as he was dragging Shanann down the stairs, he could not believe that they were still alive, and that they were running around and they were scared and whimpering, and that he dropped Shanann going down the stairs, and just all this awfulness. But he said that he knew that he had to kill them. But later on, he says that he felt like when they didn't die the first time, that God was giving him a chance to save them. But when they got back up, he said that that he knew he had to kill them or he couldn't be with Nikki. So he said that he wanted to kill them first peacefully so they wouldn't have to see what he did to Shanann, and that when they woke up, he didn't know what to do. So then he backed up the truck thinking of completion. And he said he would have killed anybody and anyone that got in his way. He admits that he never had plans on killing himself. The stench of bodily fluids was so strong in the truck this day that it made him sick. To this day, to think about it, he still smells it. He says that he asked the girls to go, but Bella asked about the car seats and said that they couldn't ride in the truck without car seats, and he said it would be all right. He said that he was mad that they were alive, and they kept asking why did it stink, and he could not believe that they came back, and he had to deal with that again, plus getting rid of Shanann. Bella asked if he could not... sorry, I skipped something. It took an hour to get to the site. He was angry, and he was surprised. He was angry when he went to bury Shanann that she landed face down instead of face up, and he didn't even bother to fix her. He said that he had saw that she delivered. He said that he didn't even bother to really clean up stuff around. The sheet was still laying out. He said in that moment is when he went back to the truck and he smothered Cece with her blanket. Then he carried her up to the hatch. He said that he dropped her in and he could hear the splash. He also said that he went back to the truck and Bella asked if he was going to do to her what he had just did to Cece. And he says he don't think he responded to her, but he did, and that she fought back, and that she had fight in her, and that she fought more than any of them. And he said she had a will to live. He said he'll hear her voice over and over in his head for the rest of his life saying, "No, Daddy, no." He said he was empowered. Bella was harder to force into the hatch. He said that he did separate the girls purposely. He wanted them farthest away from Shanann as he could possibly get them. And then he dropped them into the oil tanks to ensure that they did not get back up, because they had gotten back up the first time and he was sure that he had killed them. He was sure that they were dead, was his words. He said that he did not clean up. He don't know how daughters got murdered twice because he knows they were dead the first time. And now he was free to be with Nikki, and he had these feelings of love that overwhelmed him. He had no remorse, no sadness, just amazing feelings of love. He said he was overcame with it and intoxicated with how he felt for Nicole, and he had no remorse, and he knew in that moment that the darkness had won, and it felt permanent and evil inside of him. And he said he felt he could kill anyone or anything and be justified. So he said that his mind went to the dog and did he lock him up? And he said that Nicole was the one that texted the Metallica lyrics to look up the Metallica lyrics to Battery. And then they said he went back to work like normal. That there was nothing different about him that day. His clothes were different, but that absolutely he was not acting weird or funny or anything at all. So this concludes the portion of this. I will start with chapter 12 when I come back for my next video.